All right, happening live right now on Capitol Hill. The Senate Homeland Security Committee is meeting. Dr. Anthony Fauci has been subpoenaed to appear this is for those of you just tuning in. We'll dip back in there in just a moment, but let me recap this for you. He was subpoenaed to appear. Now, before he appeared, the committee had obtained his personal diaries, and they're not too flattering. They've shown him to be one that was enamored with his celebrity, lots of contradictory statements from what he said publicly, and he was going to be asked about that. Rand Paul, who has been very aggressive, trying to find out more answers from Dr. Fauci, is the chairman of this committee, and it's been something that he's been on top of for a long time. Now, after the opening statements by Rand Paul and the ranking member Gary Peters, senator from Michigan, Anthony Fauci did something that not a lot of people in the media had predicted. He invoked his Fifth Amendment rights after his diary release. So Rand Paul had a series of questions that we monitored, and after each and every one, Dr. Fauci invoked his Fifth Amendment right, which he is allowed to do by law. It's a constitutional right. Then the Democrats started their round of questioning, and they're basically saying, well, Donald Trump has completely destroyed the NHI, National Institute, LCDC, Elon Musk, and the Doge guys, and all the rest of that. So now they're talking about screwworms and different viruses, and not talking about anything that Dr. Fauci had been a part of over the last, since he's left with Joe Biden. And now he's sitting there looking, and it's Maggie Hassan, a Democratic senator from New Hampshire, who's now talking about cuts that the Trump administration has made, talking about researchers that have gone to other places. And so it looks like it's going to be the Republicans asking a question, kind of testifying on their own, and then Fauci invoking his Fifth Amendment rights. They're going to go to a Democrat, then they're going to defend, they're going to accuse the Trump administration of not caring about health. They're not caring about what's going on right now and wasting everybody's time. It's going to go back and forth like that for a little bit. We'll dip back in just a second. But I did not think he was going to invoke his Fifth Amendment right. I really didn't. But as he stands there and he's just kind of looking, before he was playing with a piece of paper, then he was kind of playing with an ink pen. Now he's just kind of fiddling with his fingers. Listening to all of this, I'm pretty sure of this. I'm not a lawyer, but I know I've seen this enough that if you invoke your Fifth Amendment right, that means you got to invoke your Fifth Amendment right. And the second that you answer a question other than that Fifth Amendment right, then you open yourself up. And I think that's the way it works. And I'm going to try to do this research on the fly right now. But I want to take your telephone calls. 833-804-1140, 833-804-1140. I know a lot of you were saying, and the text messages are coming in hot and heavy right now on the James River Air text line, 833-804-1140. Either way, you can get a hold of us. Call in right now or send us a text message. I want to get your reaction. Someone says, we all know you don't plead the Fifth if you're not guilty. Somebody else is complaining. Fauci will not respond. End of the story. Move on. Somebody says, blank you. Fauci needs to have a criminal referral because he lied to Congress. President Trump and the American people prosecute that blanking blank. More political theater from the Republicans to try to keep people distracted from what they're doing to this country's reputation. Okay, here's another question. Rich, this is a serious question. Do you think marijuana use is outpacing alcohol use in this country? First time what we're seeing is an increase in paranoia and increase in mistrust among marijuana users, which is leading to an uprise in uneducated and confusing American people. I'll be honest, I never thought of that. I'm going to have to do a little bit of a deep dive on that. I did want to respond to some people. because it took me a minute because we're doing a lot of different things. We're monitoring this right now. Now James Langford is talking to Dr. Fauci. So I made this statement earlier. A lot of people, hey, he's crimes against humanity. So somebody point blank just asked me in a text message earlier, and I want to make sure I responded to this properly. Because he said gain of function research, crime against humanity, basically is the inferences that I'm getting from a lot of these. So here's why I said, if I look at all the people that have committed crimes against humanity, I don't know if Fauci belongs in there. And there's a big difference here. And this is the gap where we get so frustrated, we jump from one to the other. And this is the definition of gain of function research. It's a broad scientific category in which researchers study how changing an organism affects its behaviors or capabilities. Some of it can increase biosecurity risk and absolutely needs to have strict oversight. That's what they were doing at the Wuhan laboratory. There was a middleman of an NGO that Fauci had funded, and then that person took that funding and gave it to the Wuhan virus or the Wuhan lab, where this virus that a lot of people think, and we don't know because Fauci won't answer the question, where it came from that escaped into the wet market, which was right next to the lab, and that's where this pandemic came from. Now, gain of function research is one thing, and absolutely I will agree, you do need to, there's biosecurity risk, and you have to have oversight. That's not a crime against humanity. The jump to the next portion, which is biological warfare research. That involves the intent to develop or weaponize a biological agent. This is the definition for hostile use. Biological warfare research has not been proven as what they were doing in Wuhan. That's why I can't go along with people that say he's committed crimes against humanity. If it turns out that there was biowarfare research and it got unleashed on the entire world and Fauci knew that's exactly what they're doing, then that's a different story. But I can't make that claim. I don't know if anybody else can prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Again, sorry, you're innocent until proven guilty in this country. We know there's gain of function research that went on over there, but we can't prove there was biological warfare research. So the risk alone does not prove a military purpose, and the disagreement over dangerous research does not establish that Fauci committed quote unquote crimes against humanity. It's a leap of faith that some people will make. I want to deal with the facts right here and make sure that I'm buttoned up here on Richmond's Morning News. Now, as far as him invoking his Fifth Amendment, so what I'm saying is the best way to describe it, that his Fifth Amendment right does not mean that he is admitting anything. He's just saying, I'm not going to talk. Now, what gets confusing is he already has a pardon from the president. So if he tells the truth, there's nothing that can happen. If he lies up there, then he can be held in contempt of Congress. But he's got that get out of jail free pardon from Joe Biden. So why won't he speak? The Fifth Amendment does not legally prove he committed crimes of any kind. It means his lawyers believe answering these questions could expose him to some criminal prosecution, which he already has the get out of jail free card. So you can criticize him, investigate him, and demand answers, but the evidence still hasn't been established that he committed specific crimes. He's invoking his right, which he's allowed to. But to me, that tarnishes everything and calls into question because he just won't answer any of these questions. All right. Now I have all of that out there for you. Now let's take your telephone calls. 833-804-1140, 833-804-1140. Reaction to me, disappointing, angry, mad. I want answers. I think we deserve answers after you set the world upside down and so many people suffered. The American people deserve answers. And the fact that you won't answer, to me, you lose all your credibility. Let's go to Dan on line one. Dan, welcome. You're on News Radio WRVA. Good morning. No, it doesn't work that way. He's allowed to have his Fifth Amendment right. He doesn't have to answer the questions. He just invoke them. It's kind of it's the Bill of Rights. They can't compel him to. I know, Dan, we're watching this right now, and if that were true, the Senate, the Senate would actually say, "Hey, you're compelled right now. That doesn't count," and they compel him to. None of the. I'm watching this right now. The senators aren't telling him that he has to. They say, "Okay, that's your Fifth Amendment right. We're going to ask you the next question." Dan, 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 I'm watching this right now. There's a ton of lawyers sitting behind him. Rand Paul is the committee chairman, and I probably think he was prepped. I think he was probably prepped, and I got a whole bunch of Republican lawyers that are sitting there as members of Senate. If it was possible to compel him, or you can use that statute, I believe they would. All right. Thanks for the call. Let me go to Walt next on line 2. Walt, welcome. You're on News Radio WRVA. I'm good, buddy. How are you? Pardon. Correct. I agree with you. I agree with you. If you've got that, if you were up and up on everything and you didn't break any laws, then why do you need that pardon? And the second that pardon came down, and by the way, remember, I want to say the reporting had only one pardon was actually signed. The only pardons that were actually signed by hand by President Biden were for his family, for his son, his brother, and his sister. Now, his brother has a bunch of business dealings. His sister was part of his campaign and actually was the media buyer. She made a ton of money for all the campaign ads they had over the years. Those were actually hand signed by President Biden. The rest were auto pen. I always wondered, why does Fauci need a pardon if he didn't do anything wrong? Well, I mean, but there's a little bit of a difference right there. So for you as a member of law enforcement, black and white, you just have to answer that question, and you got to answer it as truthfully as human possible as a human possibly could. Yeah, for those guys, it's opinions, and by the way, they're so slick. They know what they're saying. They know how much they skirt around and make sure that they're not lying. But the difference between these guys up there as members of Congress and you had to stand there, raise your hand, swear that you were going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They don't have to do that. No, 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 no. I mean, when you're right, you swear to right in a way. Not to. I don't want to belittle anything or compare and contrast, but in a way, what they do should be absolutely. I agree with you. What they do should be beyond reproach in a way that is actually more solemn of an oath that they're going to be there to defend the Constitution. The fact that they don't is very disappointing. But they're two different oaths. Do you agree or disagree? Ah, see, and that's where I keep talking about it. Why are those people up in Congress right now? Because we keep no, wait a second. Well, why are they in Congress right now? Because we keep sending them there. We forget to use our voice, and we keep sending them to DC. They're only there because the people vote for them. The people need to rise up and make our voices heard and stop sending the same clowns to DC year after year after year. That's on us. All right. Well, thanks for the call. Let me go to Mary next. Hey, Mary on line one. Welcome. You're on News Radio WRVA. I am great. I get to talk to you. Yeah. All right. Let's go down this rabbit hole. What would you charge him with? That's not something you would. That's okay. Wait a second. Let's go one by one. Lying isn't something you'd go before the rule of court for, is it? Fraud? No, fraud's not also something you'd put him before the world court. What else do you got? I'm just as frustrated. I'm just. Okay, Mary. Mary, I love you so much because I'm just as frustrated as you are. I absolutely think that you're right. That I am frustrated beyond my means. But one of the things I think as a conservative we have to do is we can't just throw wild accusations out there because quite honestly, you've got a media that is well heeled and you have a whole infrastructure on the left that takes anything that we have and they pick it apart and they get in that echo chamber and they destroy us. So when we say things, we have to be buttoned up. Boy, this guy he's a piece of work. So again, I tell somebody right now, somebody says, funding biological warfare. If that were the case and you can prove it, then yeah, absolutely. But gain of function is scientific study, highly risky, highly risky, but it's not biological warfare. As much as I want to project that upon him, and maybe it is and maybe it isn't, but unless you have the proof that you can say that he did it, it's just our frustration boiling over the top. And I'm just as frustrated as you are. But Mary, I'll tell you this, I never make any good decisions when I'm frustrated and angry. Do you? So I get your frustration. I'd like to know why Biden gave him that pardon. But again, as people want to jump to what he was doing, that's out of frustration, not out of fact. Does that make sense? Oh, please. Yeah. Mary, I'll share this with you. For my family, my son, my son was in school during all of this in college, and it put him back 2 or 3 years as well. So I'm just as angry as you are. So I get it. Hey, Mary, I got to run. Thank you so much. All right, we'll continue with this discussion. Brian Kilmeade's coming up next. He'll be all over this. Time for our national anthem, brought to you by Freedom Services and Training, the biggest little gun store in town, located in Mechanicsville. All right, I'm Rich Herrera. Thank you so much for joining us. You can always find me. You want to email me. Rich for America is my website. We'll talk to you tomorrow right back here on News Radio WRVA.